So the starting point for today's video is Raynaud's. And what exactly is Raynaud's? Raynaud's is the description of what we see in the circulation of peripheries, such as the fingertips, the toes, but it can also happen in other peripheral areas. So Raynaud's can happen at the tip of the nose, and some women suffer from Raynaud's around the breast, particularly around the nipple. What's happening here is that the circulation is not adequately perfusing the tissue. And there are different reasons why this might be. We have inbuilt control for our circulation. Blood vessels, particularly arteries of different sizes, have a different makeup depending on the size of the blood vessel wall. The smaller and medium-sized arteries that can supply areas like the skin have muscle inside the wall. That muscle has the ability to squeeze and relax, and when it squeezes, it can limit the blood flow to whatever it's supplying. This could be pretty helpful. So if you were on an Arctic expedition, you really want to maintain the blood flow and the perfusion to your vital organs. And in order to keep your heat in, you might wish to squeeze the blood vessels. Likewise, squeezing the blood vessels can help maintain our blood pressure if, for example, we've become very dehydrated. So there's a reason to have this control. For some people, they have a particularly sensitive response. So rather than having to go out into Arctic weather to find that their fingers go pale, they can walk out from a warm shower into a room temperature bathroom. Suddenly their fingers go pale and white. That is the most important phase to help pick out Raynaud's. There are other phases that some people have, the typical triphasic Raynaud's being the kind of most classical. So what happens here? Blood vessels initially constrict, the fingers go pale. After a period of time, the fingers are starting to produce metabolites that is suggesting, look, I need my blood flow back, I need the oxygen back. You may see that the amount of oxygenated blood goes down, so they might become a purpley color or a bluish color. And finally, the blood vessel then compensates, goes completely floppy, opens right up, and the fingers may become a deep red color, which can often be painful or a bit sore as the circulation is coming in and washing out all those metabolites. So Raynaud's can happen just from a sensitive circulation, but you may have Raynaud's because something else is going on. It could be that you're getting thickening inside the walls of your arteries from things like a very high cholesterol or damage related to smoking. So that's one thing that could be causing it. But related to the immune system is a condition called systemic sclerosis. We sometimes call that Scleroderma, which is thickening of the skin. Systemic means widespread. So systemic sclerosis means thickening in lots of parts of the body. To make things a bit more complicated still, doctors can separate this into limited systemic sclerosis and diffuse systemic sclerosis. As the name suggests, if you have a limited systemic sclerosis, this is less likely to cause problems to multiple organs of the body. What it can cause is Raynaud's. Sometimes people get bits of calcium being deposited underneath the skin. That can be very painful when they do appear. You may see some changes to the microcirculation of the skin, which has a long word called telangiectasia. There may be some thickening of the skin. So, for example, it may be hard to pinch any areas of skin because it's become thickened or almost scar-like. You may have some difficulty with indigestion or the esophagus not having proper motility because there might be some thickening of the gullet as part of this process. In the more diffuse variant, this thickening can happen in other organs of the body, such as the lungs, in the heart and circulation, in the kidneys, and in the intestine. What's happening here is the late stage of the immune system's becoming activated. So if we're thinking about our immune system as being our military, the initial phase It's the troops going in to secure the area, attacking the invading bacteria. That can cause inflammation and damage. And afterwards, the cleanup crew come in and try to put down roads and fill the potholes and what have you. And it's the cleanup crew, the scar tissue crew, that's involved here. So if you're cutting your arm by mistake and you then get an inflammatory response where it gets a bit red, it makes sure that no invaders can come in. Eventually, the body has to glue itself together and produce scar tissue. It's those fibroblasts that is pouring down this human cement scar tissue. And it's the fibroblasts that have gone wrong in scleroderma. And they're causing this cement tissue, this scar tissue, to be deposited in parts of the body, which might give you tightness in the face, difficulty in swallowing, or disturbance in functioning like the gut or even the kidneys if it's constricting kidney function. So how would you go about knowing? Well, the first thing is, if you're suffering from Raynaud's and you've never had it checked out, it's probably worth getting this reviewed by a rheumatologist, even if they decide it's not related to an underlying autoimmune complaint, because there are some treatments that can help. If they think there is a chance this could be an autoimmune complaint, they're likely to do some antibodies, the first one being an anti-nuclear antibody, and they might want to look specifically at the pattern of staining, because something called an anticentromere pattern is often related to the limited systemic sclerosis. They may also see a PMSCL or an SCL antibody or a topoisomerase. These antibodies have multiple different names. These antibodies might be associated with systemic sclerosis or systemic sclerosis in combination with things like muscle inflammation, scleroderma. If they find that pattern, they may feel comfortable in making a diagnosis. They may also want to inspect the microcirculation of your fingers during the consultation using a technique called capillaroscopy. Depending on whether they think you have limited or diffuse, other investigations might be considered. Things like lung function tests, echocardiograms, urine tests. It's really important that if you do have systemic sclerosis, you're diagnosed early, because then you can be on an active monitoring plan if treatment is felt to be necessary, whether that's for symptoms of Raynaud's or to calm down the immune system. Then starting that promptly can help prevent any damage to the organs and give you a point of contact if things change in the future. I hope you found today's video of value. Do leave me a comment if you have anything that you'd like to add to today's video. And if you found it helpful, like and subscribe.